All right.
Here we go. Now we're live.
We're live. Thank you guys so much for the patience. Today's episode is episode number 107, and we're doing a live debrief of our Alaska 7-night cruise. We just got off this cruise. We're super excited. We've got a lot of photos. We've got drone photos, 360 videos we want to show you guys from our trip. It was an awesome trip, so we want to debrief that with you all today. And we also have Jeremy. I don't know, Michael, if you're able to throw it over to Jeremy and let him say a quick hello to our listeners. He's going to be doing more of an interview style with us this time, so we're flipping the script. So, Jeremy, how's it going?
It's going great. It's good to be here to grill you.
Well, we got off Quantum. We're still recovering. The time zone was a bit difficult, I will say, this time around. But we're excited to talk about it. We've got a bunch of videos, like I said. Michael's going to flip through some of our cruise, and we're going to dive in. But let us know if you're listening, where you're listening from, and if we have any questions, we'll definitely hit those. Whether you're listening from TikTok or you're listening from YouTube, we'll definitely cover those. Well, should we start with Seattle?
Yeah, let's start with Seattle.
All right, so Seattle, I flew into Seattle 3 days before the cruise, so I arrived Friday. So Friday night, we got in pretty late into Seattle, and then we ended up staying in the Belltown area. So Belltown is kind of like the downtown area within Seattle, and it's really close. We picked the spot because it was really close to the obviously you've got the Space Needle, you've got the gardens, you've got a lot of activities. And when we were looking, we talked about this on the preview episode, we were really like struggling with what we wanted to do for those 3 days leading up to the cruise. And one of the things that we ended up buying was the Seattle City Pass. So the Seattle City Pass is basically like this pass where you can experience all of the attractions in Seattle before the cruise. And it's really nice. We ended up doing the zoo, we did the aquarium, we did the gardens, we did the Space Needle, and we did the harbor tour, which was really cool. So that was worth it. I mean, we spent, I think it was like $129 a person, and it was totally worth it. We got to do, I would say, we did everything. We obviously went up in the Space Needle. We did the Chihuly Gardens, which if you've never done is an awesome excursion. You kind of walk through and you see all the glass and you see all of that. And then when you get to the end, there's a spot where they actually have the glass making activity, so you get to watch them make the glass, which is really cool. So that was all pre-cruise. Again, before we got on, we had those 3 days. In addition to that, we did the harbor tour. We did Pike's Place Market. We saw the original Starbucks. Michael, we did the original Starbucks, which was really cool. And then, just kind of walked around Seattle. Seattle has a lot of great food. We ate at an incredible Italian restaurant while we were there. We actually walked around the Bay Area, and we saw a bunch of ships. We saw a bunch of Norwegian ships because Norwegian docks in downtown Seattle, which is really cool. So we kind of took some photos of that. But yeah, just kind of really enjoyed the Seattle pre-cruise activities. Michael and I, we kind of met up for a bit in downtown Seattle around Pike Place Market. I think pre-cruise, Seattle has a lot to offer, especially when you compare it to other cruise ports like Port Canaveral, Fort Lauderdale. Like, there's a lot of things to do in Seattle, so we really got to make the most of that. Michael, what did you feel like you enjoyed the most pre-cruise?
Yeah, so I did Pike's Market for breakfast, so we kind of walked around there. My family went up and did the Space Needle in the gardens. I had done that before, so Kyle and I, we actually went to this whiskey bar. It was literally called the Whiskey Bar, and I tried this Bainbridge whiskey. And then actually later on that day, me and my family took a ferry ride over to Bainbridge. And it's about a 30-minute ferry ride both ways. A lot was closed because we were there on a Sunday. So by the time we were there, we kind of walked around and came back. And then later that night, my brother and I went over to the Starbucks Reserve.
Oh, yeah.
We actually got there kind of late. So the bar itself was already closed. There were some cocktails there I wanted to try. But I ended up trying their Spirit Free. It's like a whiskey barrel-aged cold brew. Ended up being super good. I mean, I was drinking it almost 10 o'clock at night.
So did you guys make a reservation for Pike's Market? Like, to actually go to the Starbucks Reserve, did you guys make a reservation, or did you just show up?
So the Reserve itself isn't at Pike's. It's down the road. No, you just show up. It's kind of like any other Starbucks. It's like part coffee shop area, part bar, and then kind of like the big stills. And they do like behind-the-scenes tours and all that. But that was super neat. Hey, before we jump into it, we have some comments here from people already. Jeremy, your daughter Taylor says, "That's my dad." Do you want to give her a shout out?
Thank you for listening.
Hey, and if y'all can't hear us for any reason, we don't have any comments that are saying you can't yet. Just let us know in the comments. We have Scott here. He said, "Hey guys, we're listening here on YouTube." And then Jeremy, hello gentlemen, hello Jeremy. So let's move on to boarding day, Frank. Should we go there next?
Yeah. Let's talk about boarding day. You can see this photo behind us. Scotty and I took a selfie. When we got on board this ship, I mean, obviously the first thing we did was, you show up to the port. It was a little bit hectic because people were still getting off and we were getting on. So I will say, I don't know, Michael, you showed up later. For us, it was a bit busy in the morning, but no, we had a great time. We got on board. The terminal is a bit different in terms of the setup, but we got through pretty quickly. I would say within 10 to 15 minutes, we were on board the ship. The first thing we did, like we always do, a muster drill, walk through the ship and kind of do a tour, because this was our first time on this class of ship. So really got to explore, got to see the Seaplex, got to see the Esplanade, all of those areas. So that was really cool. And then basically we just grabbed lunch, grabbed a drink. We ate at the Solarium Bistro. So if you guys have ever been to the Solarium Bistro, it's kind of like that restaurant right in the Solarium, which is really awesome on Royal ships. So we ate there for lunch, and it's not as hectic as the main buffet, which we really liked. And then we grabbed a drink from the North Star bar, actually. So that's where that picture was that you were showing a few minutes back. We were just kind of posted up there as people started boarding the ship. And we just enjoyed it. It was a really warm day. We got lucky with our boarding day. It was probably like 70 degrees, 75 degrees, sunny, beautiful day. So we got really lucky that way. But overall, it was a really good boarding day. Michael, you boarded a little bit later. How were the crowds and things when you boarded?
Yeah, even when I boarded, Frank, it was still kind of crowded out. I mean, I think so. I actually had a boarding issue, something with my boarding pass. I don't know if I didn't download it right. I swear I had it in my wallet. They couldn't scan anything. They had to keep kind of looking me up. But I mean, security, all of that was still kind of a breeze. I think we were on the ship within 10, 15 minutes by the time we got through that. And then, like you said, we met up for Sail Away.
Yeah.
Hot dog. You took you were setting up your 360 cam off the back of the ship.
Yeah, I was setting up the 360 cam. We got a good kind of time lapse of us as we pulled out of Seattle, and it was beautiful, man. I mean, that was a great day. Great. We were all excited to kick off our trip and really get on our way to Alaska, which was awesome.
Not when you're in the background, it's always a beautiful, sail away.
We got a question from TikTok.
Yeah, question from TikTok. Do y'all still get what they are going for the crew-centered area?
I don't know what that means.
User, you're going to have to specify a little more. We're not sure what you mean by that, but it is a great cruise port area.
It was a really, honestly, like the port area wasn't bad. Jeremy, I know what you were saying. We'll talk about it when we get to disembark, but like if you get in a taxi, the taxis were lined up right there, and just getting in and out wasn't horrible. But we did have family that did the Uber way. Did you do an Uber on the way back?
We ended up, so we were trying to get over to the Uber, and then you had like some people who were like coming through the taxi line asking if you needed a ride. So the dude was like $20 ahead. We all got our luggage in, and then we didn't walk over to the Uber area itself.
So.
Well, all right, so I think we're going to have Jeremy kind of walk us through our different days, right? We'll come back to the ship and all that afterwards, but let's go through our itinerary first. So, Jeremy, kind of walk us through our days here on the ship.
So after your first sea day, you had Ketchikan. Was it a late day or early day?
We had an early day in Ketchikan. We got in around 8:30 a.m. so that we went directly to Ketchikan, and it wasn't the most beautiful day. So the weather was a bit rainy, I would say, but it was overall we made the most of the day. Michael, you ended up getting off the ship. You went to the distillery. I had a big day. We caught some fish. So this is the whole excursion that we did with the fishing. We did it through Baranoff fishing excursions. You guys can book them through Google, basically. And we actually caught 5 fish between the two couples. Ended up being around a 6-hour excursion, I would say. And I would say I get motion sick, so I did take a bovine before I got on here. And ended up being one of our favorite excursions that we've ever done. I will just go ahead and say it's a little bit of a splurge. Like if you do the math on how much salmon we're going to end up with next week when it arrives, probably not worth it on the per pound if you're looking at it that way. But the experience of being in Alaska, seeing the mountains behind you, pulling in fish, which we got kind of lucky. Some people came back from this excursion and said they didn't catch anything, which is kind of like the downside of booking a fishing excursion on a cruise is you can spend all that money and walk away with nothing. But we're lucky that we're going to have about 18 pounds of salmon coming back within the next week or so to our house. They're shipping it overnight. They filleted it, cleaned it up for us, and so we're going to be making salmon bowls next week with our fresh caught salmon. So really that's to me, like there's not a lot of places you could do an excursion like that. And that's such a memorable thing. So we made the most of that. Then we went to the Alaska Fish House, which is actually partnered with the excursion we did. And dude, that food was amazing. We had their fried fish sampler, and I mean, we really enjoyed just eating fresh fish in Alaska.
I wanted to go there so bad. We walked by there in the morning and there was no line. And by the time I got back there later in the day, line out the door. I heard it moved a little fast, but I know when I probably stood there 5-10 minutes and hadn't moved one bit. I was like, maybe next time.
Yeah, the line did not move fast, but it was worth it.
Yeah, so our day in Ketchikan, like you said, it was a rainy day. We actually started up in the North Star, which takes you a couple hundred feet up in the air above the ship. It was super cool. Like we said, it was raining this day, so it was kind of hard to see through the star itself. You see my brother kind of down there on the video trying to get in like the driest part video of the port area. But yeah, so we went over to Creek Street first, kind of walked around that, and then up behind Creek Street, there was like a path kind of that goes through the woods up to like this lodge at the top. We ended up there, bought a souvenir or two, and then headed to one of the totem pole like museum parks, kind of walked down to that. Did that museum. That was super neat. And then bussed back. And then at this point, like I said, I tried to go to the Alaska house. Didn't get in there. I ended up going to I don't think I have a video of it. I thought I did.
Distillery.
The distillery, yeah. And it was in an old fire station. So it was super neat. This one... Throughout the trip, I went to 2 different distilleries. One felt much more distillery, one more like a cocktail bar. This one was much more distillery. You walked in, the dude pretty much... I told him I wanted an old-fashioned. He put down a shot glass in front of you. He's like, all right, we're starting here. And he kind of went down. You tried the different vodkas. They had like a kelp vodka. He said
nice.
think like they're the only people in the world that do that.
Kelp vodka.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
I know. Some gin, some whiskeys. So you did that. And then me and my brother had a couple cocktails there and then headed back to the ship. But yeah, really trying to make the most of a rainy day in Ketchikan. Like I said, it wasn't my most built out day going into it. But I feel like we still did a lot in the hours we were there.
It's probably one of the bigger towns. There's multiple streets. There's a lot of things you can shop around. We walked Creek Street, for those that don't know, is like their old red light district. So there's a lot of history, which Jeremy, you kind of told us about before we went there. And so you can actually pay for like a tour of one of the houses where the girls would post up. And it was interesting to read about. Like this was, if you look at the history, this was women gaining like independence like no other back in the early 1900s. So it was quite interesting to learn about. And we actually did a little museum where it kind of talked a little bit more about Ketchikan, some of the history behind Creek Street. And then you obviously have the creek where all these salmon would swim up. So we also learned a lot about just the salmon in general and how they, go upstream to spawn. And it was really, really neat. So Ketchikan was definitely not our best weather day, but we did make the most of it. Cause like I said, we were on a boat. We had a bunch of basically clothing that kind of repelled, like waterproof clothing that repelled all the rain. And so we were like, if there's any day to be getting rained on, this is the day when we're on a fishing boat, because it literally doesn't matter. We're getting blood and stuff all over us. It didn't matter that we were getting wet. So really made the most of our day in Ketchikan.
We left Ketchikan. The next day was Sitka. I've never been to Sitka, so what did y'all do there?
I'll let you start, Frank.
Yeah, Sitka was it was a beautiful place, man. It's hard to describe Sitka other than it's just a small Alaskan town that has a beautiful backdrop. I mean, in terms of the beauty with the mountains, this was probably, I would say it's the most beautiful port that we saw, honestly. And there's not a lot of itineraries that go to Sitka. So when we talked to some of the guys that were taking us around Sitka, they were saying that it's one of the least visited cruise ports for the Alaska itinerary. And so when you get off, the downside to Sitka is that you do have to take a bus from the port to downtown. It's about 15 minutes. When we were on there, I mean, the guy was just telling us everything you need to know about Sitka. What's the price of bread? What does living in Sitka actually look like? And so we got to hear a lot about that life, and it's crazy. Like everything is shipped in, obviously, to Alaska, and they were talking about how it's super expensive, and just different things about the town and the ways of living that are so different. Like they were making jokes, like we have Amazon Prime where it's like 2-day shipping, and they have Amazon Prime where it's like 2-week shipping there. So it's just like very interesting. It's just like you don't think about, I need something on Amazon, it's gonna take me 2 weeks. But it was really cool to learn about that. So we got to the town, and then we ended up boarding our excursion. It was like a 2.5-hour whale watching. We saw whales, we saw otters, and we saw sea lions. So Michael, you have some cool videos. This is like a 360 video that I took on the boat where we were seeing whales and some of these animals. We saw bald eagles. This was a really cool tour. This guy obviously lives in Alaska. We were asking him, what do you do in the off season, right? And so he started telling us some cool things that he does. One of the things that he does to make money is these boats, they'll drop these massive planks of wood. And so he actually could go in the winter, collect these big pieces of wood from the sides of the bay, and that he makes like $4,000 to $5,000 per piece of wood that he brings back. These are for like construction and stuff. So yeah, we saw a ton of animals. He was talking to us about what it's like to live in Sitka. And, he says that he doesn't really eat chicken. So like when they go to get groceries, it's so expensive. Like I was saying earlier, they pretty much eat fish and they eat venison, and that's it. Like they don't eat chicken on a regular basis. So it was pretty interesting just to hear that like he gets his 12 deer for his family. That loads him up for his meats for the year. He eats a ton of fish. But pretty much that's his diet for the year. And then his wife will convince him to eat chicken every once in a while. So it was a really cool excursion just because we got to see so much. But then we had it's a small group, so there was only 4 of us. And we really got to ask him a little bit about what it's like to live in Alaska. So after we were done with that tour, We wanted to go on a hike. We were pretty hungry by this point. So we ended up just going. There's a street in Sitka called Baranoff Street. We walked all the way down there and then ended up doing like a 3 mile hike. And it was gorgeous. Like I think this background that you're seeing here right now is the background that we had while we were hiking through. Just imagine forest with super tall trees everywhere. It was absolutely insane. So really loved that hike. Michael, you also did a big hike while you were in Sitka.
I did. So, all right, going back a sea day or two, because I think she may be listening. Maybe not. Where did my picture go? Long story short, my sister got engaged one of the first sea days of the ship. I had the photo, Amanda, if you're watching. Congrats again. But so her now fiance and our Sitka day decided we were going to go for a hike, right? And this hike, dude.
He's a big hiker, right?
Yeah, dude, had his GPS on him at all times.
I asked him, he had his GPS like on the ship, and I'm like, why do you need this? Like,
always carrying it with him. But with the thing, he found this hike on his phone. It ended up being the hardest hike of my life. I'm going to throw a little picture here to give you just a little sense of what this trail was like. There were parts, dude, you had to hold on to ropes, wires to get up it. Super steep. I think the elevation gain of this hike was 2,600 feet and about 1.9 miles. So
it's basically half a mile that you're going uphill.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was crazy by the end of it. It did give us some great views, some of the couple stops up that looked over the port area and all that, so that was super cool. But I think by the time we made it back to the ship, I think already 10 miles on the day, because we got off the ship. Obviously, like you said, we took the bus over to the area, and then we not hiked, but pretty much walked all the way to the trailhead. So I think there was like another little totem park we walked through. And by the time we got to the trailhead, like I said, we were already kind of tired. My dad and sister came too. At some point, they ended up kind of turning back around, and the three of us, me, Kyle, and Cam, made it up to the top. I mean, it felt good once you finally made it up there. It's like, all right, we did it. Then we had to hike back down. But like we get to the top, there's some locals up there. Like they were impressed as cruisers that we actually like had done the hike. Now, obviously, they're sitting there, they knew to have their sandwiches and all that. So they're sitting there eating. Here we are, practically out of water, dying. Probably the smallest breakfast we had yet. And it was probably the most physical activity we had done on the entire cruise. But yeah, Sitka was beautiful. Once we got back into town, we kind of just walked around. I mean, we got to the bottom of the trailhead and then walked all the way back, kind of walked into some shops. We were going to go to one of the restaurants and then decided to just go back to the ship and eat on the ship. But overall, it was a great day in Sitka.
Yeah. And we got food in Sitka. We had lunch and then just kind of walked around and looked at the shops, and it was a really cool town. Like I said, not a massive town by any means, but there was definitely enough to do where you were entertained for the full day. We were just kind of at the end of our excursion, just kind of walking around and just looking at all the different things. We're not big like I don't know. We don't bring a lot of souvenirs from home from our cruises, so we didn't buy any, like, what do they call them, like tchotchkes or whatever.
I really didn't either.
We didn't buy any. I think we bought one mug the whole time, and I think we bought it in Juneau or something. But like, we're just not those types of people. But if you are those types of people, there's like so much you can buy: t-shirts and people, even on the ship, man. We can talk about that. They were
whole
selling
shop, yeah.
They had a whole shop with
dedicated
to Alaska gear, where they had Alaska jackets. I mean, really nice things. And I actually saw some of the stuff on the ship that I also saw on land, which was pretty interesting as well.
All right, Jeremy, next it was our glacier day in the morning of our day with Gino. And I want to kind of compare our glacier time together. Obviously, we went to the Endicott Arm Fjord and the Dawes Glacier. And you did Glacier Bay. And I want to kind of hear it first. Just tell us about your day in the glaciers and how, like, what you thought of the experience.
Glacier Bay, there's multiple glaciers. You go down the sea and you go down to the end and you see the Marjorie Glacier and you turn around and you see I can't remember the name of the other one. We had a really hazy day, so you couldn't really see very well. A lot of, it was it was overcast, it was hazy, it was raining. But it's an entire day, right? You get in the bay like at 7 o'clock, and you leave the bay like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So they're coming over the loudspeaker telling you stuff. They're looking for otters and stuff and whales, and then I mean, it's a nice, relaxing day. We watch it on our balcony, and I don't know. It's kind of an easy day.
Now in Glacier Bay though, you're seeing multiple glaciers, right?
Yes.
Because I feel like that's one of the probably the biggest difference of ours. So ours is just the Dawes Glacier. I mean, our ship pretty much. I mean, we woke up 5 a.m. I think we were out there in the solarium. You tried to get in the hot tub.
Yeah. I tried to get in the hot tub that day, and there was only one hot tub, so they were still cleaning the ones in the solarium. So we went out to the pool deck, and it was freezing. We were that wasn't why we got out of the hot tub though. We couldn't really see the glacier from like the inside of the ship. It wasn't one of those ships where they have the hot tubs hanging off the edge like on the Oasis class. So this one was kind of in by the pool deck, the one that was open. So we're like, we can't really see the glacier from here. So we're like, let's just go back down on our balcony. So we ended up going down on our balcony and got some really cool footage of the glacier. And the cool thing is they don't get really close, at least on ours. I don't know if it was the tides or what reason why they didn't get all the way up to the glacier, but we were able to get close enough, and they actually spun the ship around a couple different times in the bay. So we were able to get good views of the glacier. And then Jeremy, one thing that we found really interesting was that Royal does an excursion where you can actually get off here. So like while the ship is in the glacier bay or in this fjord, they pull up next to the ship and you can do an explorer, which is about a 6 hour, and they actually meet the ship over by Juneau. So we had family that did that, and they got really close. They did like these iceritas or whatever, where they grabbed like the glacier ice and made like margaritas out of it. They had hot chocolate, and you get to get really close up to the glacier on a little explorers. So next time I go, I think that'd be something I'd look into for sure.
Yeah, and really the last thing
That's interesting. I've seen people do excursions near glaciers, and I mean, I obviously you can't do that in Glacier Bay, but that's definitely a reason to go do a different glacier.
Yeah, what was I about to say about our day here? Yeah, like you said, we did the 360. Oh, we were talking to our waiter one of the nights at dinner. I think it was the day of here, and he said we were actually like the past 2 weeks prior to us, both sailings actually couldn't get up even as close as we did. I don't even know if they went in the fjord at all. I think they just went straight to Juneau because of weather and all that. And I think still like a lot of ice there in the water. So yeah, he said that he was surprised we were able to make it. Like you said, you don't get super close to it, but it's still cool. I mean, even just going through the fjord and having all these waterfalls on the sides and all like these like little baby seals on the ice, that was super cool. But yeah, I mean, that was a great morning. But now, I mean, it's a pretty long day because now we're going to Juneau, Frank.
Yeah, we woke up at like 5 a.m. this day because that's when we started sailing through the glacier. So our glacier time was 5 a.m. till 10 a.m. And if you didn't wake up by like 7:45 or 8, you probably missed the best part. So we were up early, got our coffee. We actually got breakfast delivered into our room this day.
Okay.
By the way, don't be shy about room service. It's like $7, and you can order as much food as you want. I think people forget that. Like, you can order, we had 5 different things coming, like 5 plates of food, which was just eggs, sausage, bacon, and we were eating that with our mimosas, just looking at the, I mean, like, come on, how does it get better than that? You don't even have to go to the buffet. You can just get that food brought down to you. So that's a little hack if it's 5 a.m. and you don't want to go deal with the crowds, or you don't want to deal with anyone in the buffet, just get that food delivered to your room.
Now, before you jump into what you did here in Juneau, Frank, we have a question, and I think it's going to kind of go well with you talking about this day, because I know you did things a little different this day. Deb says, hello, did you arrange your excursions through the cruise line or via an independent provider? I know you've kind of already talked about your fishing excursion and all that, but I know this day was a little different with how you went about it.
Yeah, I think she was asking this around the time that we were talking about Sitka. So Sitka, I did that one through Viator. We can put the link in the description. That one was a really good, it's Captain Rick, so he was a really good tour guide, like I said earlier. For our Alaska Juneau Day, where we did the glacier and helicopter tour, that one was booked through Royal. So originally I was booked independent, like through a third party that I found online. But then we saw that we only had 20 minutes on the glacier, and I'm like, okay, the helicopter ride's like 20 minutes. We're just getting to the airport takes 20 minutes. So we're like, to actually walk on the glacier for 20 minutes is just not enough time.
Yeah.
So we ended up upgrading ours, and we went through the cruise line, and it ended up being a 2-hour hike. And I think, Michael, you have some cool videos of us hiking through the glacier, but we got on the helicopter. The helicopter took off through the Juneau airport. It was about a 10-15 minute ride to the glacier. You can see the footage here. Looked absolutely incredible. Loved that helicopter ride. He was kind of talking about the glacier, and it's really cool. Like, they're not super like political when they talk about like the glaciers receding and stuff. I think that when we were on the helicopter tour, he was like, listen, there's no debate that the glacier is melting. Now you can debate on like why it's melting or what's causing it, but basically he was showing us on how far back it's been versus where it used to be. So that was kind of interesting, and we really enjoyed that helicopter tour. Then we finally landed on the glacier, and most of this excursion was us just hiking like this, like just hiking through. We had our spikes on the bottom of our feet so we weren't slipping. We were just kind of walking, and he was explaining things, showing us different things. You could ask questions. In total, right, you could only have 4 people, about 4 to 5 people on the helicopter. So we had 2 helicopters worth. So pretty much a private tour. There were 10 of us on the glacier with 2 guides. And so they were really watching you, making sure that you knew where to walk, how to walk. There's certain techniques of walking on ice and using those spikes. So that was pretty much our day. It was a long day. I mean, before that, Michael, we actually went up on the tram. So I don't know if you have a footage. Yeah, you have a video of us going up on this tram. Kind of some cruise news, actually. Someone on a Norwegian ship this last week did this exact thing that we did. So they went up on this tram, did the hike that we did, and actually we have some drone footage of where I was on the hike. Someone died, Michael. Like, they found a body on this trail within the last week.
That's wild.
So right after our tour, there was a lady that went on Norwegian. They found her body. And they still don't know. I don't think they know unless it came out today what happened to her. We don't know if she fell. She was a doctor. She might have hit her head. Might have been a heart attack. We don't know. It didn't look like it was a bear because you can kind of tell if something like attacks you from the outside. But really terrible tragedy, obviously. But this is where we were. We did the tramway, which is right by the ship. This was the first thing we did when we got off. And if you're planning on doing this, just a heads up, make sure you do the tram right when you get there because the line builds up like crazy. So we got right off, and when we came down, the line was like filled all the way through the entire building. So just a little tip that if you're going to do this excursion or this tramway, make sure you do it early.
And I hear you had a bite to eat too this day. It looked real good.
We obviously had some fried. I think this was fried halibut, dude. Some of the best food I've ever had, man. It was so good. They actually fried it in their seltzer, so it was like a lime seltzer. So it had like a nice lime flavored, and then they had beer that was super good as well. So there's some really good restaurants right there by the port in Juneau. Make sure that if you guys are going to Juneau, you check those out.
Nice. Well, for my day, so Deb, to kind of answer your question about me, most everything I did was kind of like a do-it-your-own type day. And so we rented a car through Turo and drove over to Mendenhall Glacier. And so we parked right at the visitor center. I mean, it ended up, I think most bus excursions I saw to kind of get you to the glacier were like $60 to $80 a person. And then you had like 2 hours to kind of explore the area. Renting the car was like $30 a person, and I think we had 6 of us go, so it ended up working out great. You got there, and for some reason, every time I was hearing about this, obviously this glacier's receding too, kind of like you were saying, and you walk down to this waterfall, right? There's like a waterfall walk you can go do, and down by the waterfall, they say it's kind of hard to see the glacier from that because it's slowly creeping back. I thought that was the best spot you could actually see the glacier. But right when you pull up, I mean, you can see the video here. You see the full the front of the glacier right there. So super cool time. We spent it's probably about a 20, 30-minute walk out to the waterfall, back. Obviously, everybody's out there taking videos, pictures, and all that. We saw some of like the canoes out in the water for like some of those type of excursions out there at Mendenhall Lake. And then after that, we took the car, drove down the Glacier Highway. It actually dead ends at some point. We didn't take it all the way to the end, but we stopped by Eagle Beach. This was another place I read, like, if you have a car, go stop by. It's kind of like a campground, state park type area. And it was cool. We saw plenty of bald eagles up in the trees. And
dude, the bald eagles are crazy. Like, I think when you're in the continental U.S. and you see a bald eagle, you're like, oh my gosh, there's a bald eagle. But when you're in Alaska, man, it's like, the fishermen were like, they're kind of a nuisance. Like, there's so many of them. It's like, okay, you're complaining about like the bald eagles, because there's just so many in Alaska. I think on that fishing day I saw like 5 or 10. I saw them everywhere. It's like that's their common bird there, which is just so crazy.
Yeah, so then we got back into town, parked the Turo back in the parking deck. Some of my family went back to the ship. This is where I went out and checked another distillery. This is the one I said kind of felt more like a cocktail bar. It was called Almaga. They do gin and whiskey here. So, like I said, this one I think I ordered an old-fashioned and then like a gimlet type drink with gin. Both ended up being super good. A lot of locals hanging out here. I mean, it was probably about 6 o'clock. So, yeah, I mean, just a great day here, trying some of the drinks and ending our day in Juneau and our last day in Alaska, Frank.
Yeah. I mean, this was a sad day, right? Having to go back on the ship and head back to the port. No, this is probably a good time to talk about packing, since we did do an episode about packing. Jeremy, you obviously helped us a lot when it came to packing. We were texting you before the cruise, hey, do we pack this? We pack that? And you were giving us some tips. But, and my mom is actually going on Alaska cruise in 6 days too, so I was texting her about this as well. When it comes to packing, it is hard. I mean, it is a hard trip to pack for, and I know everyone says pack layers, and the crazy thing is like it really is, you really do need layers, because ultimately I was freezing when I was walking on that glacier. I mean, my nose was running, I was super cold, and then when I was walking around in Juneau, I mean, we're sweating, right? Like it's just the same day, right? Yeah. Same day. 1 second the wind is blowing that ice and I'm like freezing my butt off. The other second I'm sweating. So it's like, it's really hard to describe, but you definitely want things where you can strip off, put it in a backpack. You can add on if you need to. You have your hat if you need to cover your ears, because you just don't know what you're going to get weather-wise. When that sun goes away, sometimes a cloud rolls in, you get a little rain, it starts to be cold. So definitely make sure that you do pack layers. I think I packed well. There was definitely some things I didn't wear on the cruise, but ultimately I felt prepared. I would say when you're off the ship, try to wear like athletic. I would say athletic is a good vibe to go for. You don't need to impress anyone in Alaska. It's not like you need to dress nice, but wear athletic clothing that you can add on to. So I wish maybe I had more like athletic pants that I could just have. I reused a couple of those because I just didn't bring enough. So that's something like you probably don't want to wear jeans when it might rain and things like that. So
yep, no, that's the thing. I brought a pair of jeans, didn't wear it. I almost pretty much underpacked at the end of the day, because my pair of joggers I did bring, I wore the Sitka day on the hike and got all muddy because, like I said, it started to kind of drizzle on the way back down, got all muddy. So if there's anything I probably should have packed more of, it was like an extra pair of joggers. But at the end of the day, I think I'm getting closer to being spot on for packing for a 7-day cruise. Now we have some questions that came through. Jeremy, first one's for you, talking about Glacier Bay. Were you able to hear any of the ice break off any of the glaciers as you were sailing through?
Not this time. The first time I went, I did get to hear the glacier calving. It was pretty awesome. I mean, it echoes through the whole canyon, and the whole area, and it sounds like lightning, but it's like 360-degree lightning. It's really crazy. This time it didn't calve at all, which kind of was a letdown.
Frank, tell the story quickly of your Uncle Mo and him being on the little excursion and what happened when the glacier was caving for him.
Yeah, so they were the people that were like right by the glacier. So they got off, they did that excursion, I think through Royal Caribbean. It was like $400 or $500 to get off the ship while it was in that bay. And you got to go up to that glacier that you can see behind us here. So he paid for that, and he got a ton of videos. And man, as soon as he put his phone down, when the glacier broke off, and then he's like, all right, I'm ready for the next one. So he gets his phone. I mean, he's holding it there for 3 minutes, and then he turns it off and walks away. Glacier breaks again. It's like, man, you almost need that camera. You need that selfie stick on the whole time, because you just don't know, right? You don't know when that whale's going to pop out. You don't know when something cool is going to happen. And so he was super bummed that he didn't get the ice breaking off the glacier. But that's a cool excursion. Like if you guys are going to Alaska and you're not going to step on the glacier and like do the helicopter tour, I would do the bay where you get off and go as close as you possibly can, because it's just super cool to see.
Yeah, and one more question from Scott. Frank, he said, all these activities sound awesome. What other type of activities were there for excursions? And I think,
there were so many activities. There was whitewater rafting. There was kayaking. There was whale watching. There were guided tours of the towns that you could do.
Yeah.
There was different hiking ones. In Sitka, they had the reptile. They had the eagle, like the reptile place. They also had the bear. what is it called?
Bear
Fortress of the Bear.
Yep.
So you could go over there and actually go and like see bears. I mean, again, it's not like seeing them in real life, but you're seeing them in a place where they're rescuing them and taking care of them, and you can get really close and feed them. So that's pretty cool. So those were kind of, what are some of the other excursions that I'm forgetting? I mean,
I think
planes.
that's it. I mean, like the seaplanes. I know a lot of the different cities have little like walking food tours and brewery tours and all of that. So that's always an option. But like you said, the bears, dude. I mean, I saw whales off the side of the ship, seals, bald eagles. The one thing I just wanted to see, especially when we were like going through the fjord, is a bear there
Dude,
on the side.
When we were in Juneau, we did that hike again, the same hike that girl was missing and they found her body. We did that hike, and when we got to the top, they said, today we've seen a bear. So just be aware. They're like, we saw one on the trail. Don't feed. They're like telling us don't feed it. Like, what, you think I'm gonna like bring out my goldfish and start handing it out to the bear? No. But we looked out. We were trying to find one, but that was definitely a disappointing. You just want to see a bear in the wild, right? Like that's what you dream about, you know?
Yeah. We have a comment from Mandy. She said, I've been to Juneau 3 times now, and every time Mendenhall Glacier looks completely different from the front. She was surprised how far back the front of it was this time, 1,700 feet below the trail. Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is my first time out there. Mandy, first off, thanks for watching and tuning in today. Yeah, I mean, that's crazy just how much each time these glaciers are receding.
And I think the length of the Mendenhall Glacier is at 25 miles long.
I mean, dude,
or is that Dawes? That might be Dawes. They're big. I mean, they are big and they are receding. They talked about how I think it's 100 feet every year. It's going back and back. So even this one that we were at, it's going to get harder and harder to see. So if you're like, we got to see it again from a distance, probably half a mile away. Think about another, next year, it's going to be another 100 feet back. The next year, another 100 feet back. Like it continues to go back further and further. So what's really cool, we didn't talk about this. On the day of Juneau, Michael, they actually had a naturalist on board down in the 270 space. We'll talk more about the ship in a second, but they had a 270-degree view of the glacier, and there was a naturalist. She went, graduated from Duke, super smart girl. She would actually talk about like the glaciers and some of the different things and like really just educate you. And so we actually were able to tune in our TV and just kind of learn more about this. Like, what is a glacier? Like, how are they created? How long does it take to create? Like, how many years of this was it just snow and snow and snow till we got to an actual glacier? So it was cool to hear about that. But then she also came around during the other parts of the cruise and did like just some cool presentations. And I know we've talked about this on the podcast before, Michael, but like, I actually like learning stuff like that, like when I'm on a cruise.
Yeah. Like
she was doing some really cool talks about some of the sea animals that you see, like jellyfish and some of these other bacterias and things that are in the ocean near Alaska. And it was really fascinating, actually. So for those that like to learn about where you're going, you'll probably experience that on your Alaska cruise, where they have opportunities to kind of go and do some of these seminars or things where they're talking about nature and stuff like that.
I was surprised too at how many Royal actually did, because I know, Jeremy, like you had mentioned, I think Princess does do a lot of that, and like I said, I think almost every day they had someone on our ship too, kind of doing some sort of seminar.
We have a question from Taylor.
Yeah, so let's see. Mandy said no. The body of the lake maybe was 1,700 feet below the trail.
Yeah, the helicopter found her like 1,700 feet below the trail.
The late.
So it sounds like she fell off.
Gotcha.
Thank you for the correction.
All right, Taylor's question. Well, Jeremy, do you want to take us into food?
Yeah, a lot of seafood.
That's the thing. Taylor asked, did the boat serve a lot of seafood? Let's kind of just talk about what we did for our meals, Frank, where we found ourselves eating a lot of.
So, to answer the question, Taylor, the ship probably served the same amount of seafood as they would do on a Caribbean cruise. And you would think like, oh, it's in Alaska, like they're just going to grab more fish. It doesn't quite work like that with these big cruise ships. They're still going through a big distributor, so they're still getting like their normal supplies. I wish it was like that where you got more crab legs, you got more seafood, like you still had your lobster, Michael. But it was pretty much a similar menu from what I could tell. In terms of food on the ship, though, I thought the food was pretty good. We did 3 nights on. Me and Scotty did 3 nights specialty dining. So we did chops. We actually did Azumi sushi. That was kind of like a random ad at the end. So we did chops, the steakhouse. We did Azumi sushi, and then we did our Italian spot at Jamie's. And those were all really good. Again, just like a private dining experience. But then the rest of the nights, we ended up doing the dining room. Okay. And man, we thought the service in the dining room was really good. So rather than do one big dining room on this ship, Royal actually broke it into smaller dining rooms. So you felt like you were kind of more in like a private restaurant, which was really nice. Food-wise, I thought the food was good. Pretty much on par with what I've had on other cruises. Michael, how would you kind of compare it?
Yeah, I mean, we had a great time overall when it came to the dining. We did Jamie's Italian one day. I think the first sea day for lunch. That was super good. I'd never had Jamie's before. Found myself eating at 270 a couple times. They do like a little, it's almost like the Central Park Cafe. They have like the roast beef sandwich, a little salad station. So you kind of have that on that ship, but inside, ate at the Solarium Bistro a couple times, I think, for breakfast and lunch. Because, I mean, that's probably, I mean, we'll talk about the sea days, but that's probably where I spent a lot of my time, just sea days. And when I got back on the ship was in the Solarium. So that was always nice to have that as options. And even the main dining room, I mean, obviously some different menu nights. There's no Caribbean night on this sailing. They do like a U.S. night, a Taste of Asia night, which I think is probably my favorite night of all of them. Me and my brother, I think, split like 4 different dishes. Like we really just wanted to try the whole menu. Ordered different curries each night. That's always super good on Royal Sailings. And yeah, I mean, like I said, the only specialty we did was Jamie's, but even the Windjammer too. I found myself in there maybe 2 or 3 times, once or twice for breakfast and once for lunch, and that was always good too. The day of Juneau, so that morning after the glacier was probably, I mean, there was a line waiting to get in. You kind of had to wait, tell them your table number, and before you could even wash your hands, they were like making sure a table was ready and would bring you over. So I'd never seen that before. I don't know if that I've never happens seen a line often.
We saw that on this ship too. Like they were definitely monitoring the crowd in the Windjammer. So. And
every like 5-10 minutes, there would come a little announcement over the speakers like, hey, like, just making sure, like, if you're done eating, pretty much get out. Like, we need to get other people in.
That was interesting. They did advertise. They're like, if you're here and you're done eating in the buffet, please get out. Please allow other people. And it goes back to a couple episodes ago where we had Jason on, and Jason was like, he was kind of using that as not like a feedback for Royal, that he wishes that he could hang out in the buffet. And at the end of the day, I think Royal just views the buffet as like a quick get in, get out. They don't want you to hang out there. Like, it's not the hangout spot. You know, they have a lot of spots on the ship you can hang out, but the buffet, because of it's so crowded, you're around food, they just try to get you in and out. And on our cruise, I mean, they did a decent job, but to your point, there's not a lot of other free food options. You had 270, Solarium Bistro, you had the cafe and the promenade, or the Esplanade. But then, you know, obviously the Windjammer is the big one where you can order whatever you want. So
I think one place to point out, I have a video of it, the Noodle Shop. This is a little different. I mean, obviously the ship originally was selling the Asia market. This place has some free options, has like some mini hot dogs, chicken tenders, fries. Scotty actually had like a beef like soup here.
Yeah.
One of the days, it was super good. They have like different kebab options for super cheap, some different soups and noodles and all that. So that's another option on the ship. And then the pub also sells some bites. I really wanted to eat there one of the days. I know my sister did it. Like, they have lobster mac and cheese bites.
Did she say it was good?
She said that was good. Cam got a burger there. He said it was great. And I know they have like nachos that sound
so they're trying to
well.
like almost use the pub, which usually doesn't have food, to kind of simulate what Playmakers offers, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, because Playmakers has burgers, they have nachos, they have wings. Like, it's the same concept. It's just in a different venue, I think. So
yeah. Mandy said Windjammer breakfast was terrible. She wished she had tried 270. Yeah, I only had breakfast in the Windjammer once or twice, and it was we did breakfast in the main dining room a couple days, actually. I think I did it twice. Some of my family did it 3 or 4 times. The menu doesn't really change for breakfast in the main dining room, so like if you're locked in on a breakfast burrito or one of the breakfast plates, like You just have to be okay with getting that multiple times.
You know what was good in 270 was those breakfast burritos.
I had that disembarkation day.
Yeah, you liked it. It had like the beef chili and the
it was
eggs
different
and stuff. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I thought it was good.
So man, there were options there, and then the Solarium Bistro. I mean, obviously it's just a smaller kind of Windjammer. But the day I went to the Windjammer was to get like avocado toast, did like salmon bagel or something.
But going back to the noodle shop that you were just showing, they had free options too. So they had chicken tenders and fries, which we got that on embarkation day. So for like a little snack, we had a hot dog, and then we hit a lot on embarkation day. We had a hot dog from the dog house, and then which were good. Those were actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And then we went and grabbed from the noodle shop. They had some chicken tenders and fries that you could have for free as well. So there was a lot of food. We ate a lot of food. And I saw some of your tables. Your family was showing me that you had consistently ordered 2 entrees pretty much every night. So nicely done.
Yeah, most nights would be a dinner and a curry, pretty much. A couple apps. All right, Jeremy, where do you want to take us next?
So what kind of room do you guys book? You guys book balconies or?
How do we skip that? That's typically where we start on this thing.
Yeah, that's the first question we normally ask. We booked. I had a balcony. I did an obstructed view balcony, but I found one that was Jeremy. If you look at that photo that's below us of the ship, you can see like there's some windows that have balconies. So almost like a porthole, like what Celebrity would call like the porthole balcony. So it's not like you can walk out and you have the wind blowing on the left and right. You're almost stepping out into like an enclave where you have like protection on both sides, which we actually liked it because it was less cold than we, usually have those little blinders on the left and right. We just had like almost like this porthole balcony. So we really liked that. We thought it was great. It was $1,000 cheaper than what it would have been for a normal balcony. So we saved some money there. Michael, you booked an interior down the hall from us. And you had a virtual balcony.
Yeah, let's talk. Before I get there, my sister's in the chat, and I did find that engagement photo. So let me pop that up on here quickly. There we go. There we are in the casino of all places, taking a photo together.
We're going to talk about the casino.
Amanda said the lobster mac and cheese bites were so good, as well as the burgers. Chops had some of the best steak, in my opinion. Yeah, I forgot, Frank. Most of my family ended up doing Chops our last C-Day for lunch, and I know they all really loved it. Said it was, some of the best steaks they've ever had. I know you love Chops. I still haven't done a steakhouse on a ship.
The frustrating thing that they're doing now is they have like these select cuts. I wish, because it's like you go to this steakhouse that's extra, and now they have like their normal steak, and then they've got select cuts, which is like another upcharge. So it's like that's bothering me that they did that. That's a new thing the last year or two. Seems like another way to grab more money. But I also thought Chops was, besides the Zumi sushi, which is like, you can't really compare sushi to any other food. I actually normally would say Jamie's is better, but on this ship, Chops was really good. The steak was amazing. Obviously, the ambiance is great in Chops. It's always great. White tablecloth. You feel, really bougie eating there. And it was really good. So I agree, Amanda. Probably the best steak on board you could find at Chops.
Yeah. Now back to my room top. Like we said, I was an interior with a virtual balcony. And Jeremy, of all people, now my brother hasn't cruised in over a decade, and we were rooming together. It took me probably 2 or 3 days to figure out where I was on the ship and where my room was. You look at a map of the ship when we were booking the rooms, and it looks like my room is right across the hall from Frank's. No. So Frank's side really didn't have any interiors. And then the other side, it was like a hallway in the hallway of interiors. So, dude, it took me forever to finally get, but probably...
The map did not match the ship.
No, it did not.
On our deck.
Yeah, not at all. And I think that's what confused me. And there were a couple times, man, I was doing big circles around the thing. And then I'm like, God, how did I come in from this other side again? But we did the interior with the virtual balcony. It was neat. I mean, it is cool how like there are cameras on the side of the ships, and like when we're pulling up the port, I mean, you start to see the shops appear and all of that. I mean, it has legit curtains you close at night and open in the morning, so that was cool. I mean, obviously better than a normal interior at the end of the day.
Listen, we have 15 people watching us live right now. We've only gotten questions from like 3 of you, so make sure, let us know you're here, say hi, or let us know if you have any questions about cruising, Alaska. We do have a question from Deb.
Of all the cruises you've taken, which has been your absolute favorite and why? Ooh, I'm gonna go Mediterranean. I don't think anything beats cruising in Europe at the end of the day. I mean, we'll probably, I don't know, this is more like a wrap-up type thing, and we'll get there later on. But I thought Alaska was maybe going to be like a one-and-done type thing, but I don't think so now. Like, I want to go back, but I think I'll probably be sailing the Med again next before I get back to Alaska again.
Yeah, we're booked on a Med cruise next year, and I would echo that. Alaska reminded me of the Med. It probably would be my second most favorite cruise, if you were to say that. But I also thought Alaska was a one and done, where I was like, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to be like, I checked that box. I'm done. I'm not going back to Alaska. It was actually quite the opposite. I want to go back. I want to do things that I didn't get to do. I want to go with different people. You know, obviously we had a good time. I want to go with a big group next time. Again, we had about 15 people on our cruise, but would love to grow that. Obviously, if you're listening, that means we want to get you on an Alaska cruise with us at some point. So that would be an awesome time. But, you know, I think to your point, Michael, the Mediterranean is just, it's so cool to see different cultures, but then having your own room and being able to hit 3 different countries that are just so unique it's an awesome. If you have not yet been to the Med on a cruise, you have to do it.
Yeah. A lot of love in the chat for chops. Filet mignon was so good. I think that's what most of my family ordered. And then Jeremy also said I've done chops on 2 different ships, and the filet was amazing on both. So I guess the filet is the way to go when you're at chops.
They have the petite filet. They have the 6 ounce, and they have the 9 ounce. We know, Jeremy. We went 9 ounce, right? Yep.
Always 9 ounce.
Yeah. And you can order as many of them as you want. So that's a nice thing.
Yeah.
All right, Jeremy, where are we going? What are we talking?
All right, so on your sea days, tell me what your days were like there.
Sea days. Well, the first sea day was super calm. I mean, all right, so we kind of had 2.5 sea days, right? We had a sea day going out, a sea day coming back, and then our last day was like half sea day, half Victoria, which I guess, we skipped over Victoria. We'll have to pop back there. The second sea day, if you look at the map again, we came like on the outer side, like the ocean side, and we had some big waves those days. And that was the day we actually went live on Instagram and TikTok, and we're walking around showing the ship off. So we did a lot of that in the morning. How do we spend our sea days?
Sea days, we have some videos to show this. Sea days, we spent our day sitting in the solarium, in the hot tub, or in the pool. We obviously ate our meals. You talked about eating in the main dining room or going to the solarium. We did the solarium bistro for breakfast, a little hack. I think it's a hack.
I think one of the sea days I did breakfast and lunch there because we were just sitting out there for so long.
When you're in the solarium, that's like the spot. It's like a neighborhood. You don't need to leave. You have bars, you have hot tubs, you have food. You don't need to leave. So we did that, and then the biggest thing that I would say we spent most of our time doing on sea days was definitely the flow rider. So I think you have some clips. Michael, this was a big cruise for you.
I know, yeah.
On the flow rider, dude.
I think I got them in here. Let's see. Flow rider. Yeah, here we go. So we got Frank first. And take the needle shop off. Little 360 cam from the top.
So this was a big part of our time. Right? It was freezing, by the way. We were really, really cold when we got out. But the water was heated. It was a really good time. Michael actually got a new band. This is a big cruise for you. You spent a lot of time on the flow rider. Here's Michael doing. I
think this was the one that got me the band.
Yeah.
Staying up. I mean, it was about 40 seconds long, I think.
If you've never been on a Royal Caribbean cruise, this is probably one of my favorite things about it. You've got 1 flow rider on this ship. You've got 2 on a lot of the Oasis class. We spent how many hours at the flow rider on our cruise? Probably like 7 hours, 8 hours. I don't know. We spent a lot of time.
That may be overshooting it a little.
Maybe overshooting it, but maybe.
But the nice thing was there was never really a line most of the days. And most of the days we got up there like right at the start, and it'd be like 3 or 4 of us up there, and you were out. Once you fell off, you were wrapping up in a towel and putting a shirt back on and getting back in line. But it was a great time. I understand why you get like that itch now.
Yes.
Once you actually get up, because I mean,
put it on again. I feel like once you do it, it's really addictive. It's an addictive thing being on the flow rider. So that's probably, Jeremy, what we spent the most of our time doing was the flow rider, and then walked around the ship. There was a lot of shops open. You guys did the specialty dining that one day.
We did trivia one day.
We did trivia one day.
We did all right, not the best.
Yeah, we didn't do bad. We did some game shows while we were on there.
Yeah.
So we did make the most of the time.
Tell me about the casino. How'd you do, and how was the casino on the ship?
How was the casino? All right, well, I'm not the biggest casino player, but I ended up. I one of the first days I put like $20 into the slots and lost it, but one day we played blackjack together. Me, you, Kyle, and Cam, all four of us sat down, and I ended up. I don't know, made over $100, like 110 or something. So at the end of the day, it was fun. I understand why you enjoy it, but you go on because you spend a lot more time than me.
Yeah, so the casino, I thought it was a good layout on this one. It wasn't massive. You had, your normal table set up. I didn't play a ton in slots, Jeremy, just because I wasn't mentally prepared to run that much cash through the machines this time. But I will say the tables were really good to us. Like Michael said, we sat down at a $15 blackjack table and enjoyed that we both went up. So it's the hard part about blackjack on a cruise is you go with your friends, you sit at the table, and only a couple of you guys walk away happy. The rest of you are upset because you basically just paid each other. So that's the downside to blackjack. So we did that for a bit, and then I spent a lot of times on the craps table. So if you guys have not played craps, it's that long table. You roll the dice and you bet on the numbers. So that was a ton of fun playing craps. And craps is fun because everyone wins at the same time. So like you make a lot of friends. If you want to make friends in the casino, you're either playing the slots, I feel like, or you're playing craps or a game like craps where everyone wins at the same time. So we spent a decent amount of time in the casino at night. So that was fun. And yeah, definitely a good time. We have a couple of questions coming in, so I'm going to try to hit those real quick. Darcy said, I did enjoy Chops, but didn't like the view of the lifeboats. Ever thought? Yeah, that's definitely one of the downsides to where they put this Chops location on the cruise is that you're looking at the lifeboats. I'm not a big fan of that. I love on the Freedom class, Michael, how you have the view of the ocean. So sort of depends on the layout of the ship and where they have to put things. And obviously the dining room too, you could catch a view of the lifeboats, which I'm not a big fan of either.
Scott has a question for us. Whether in Alaska can be hit or miss, what do you think is the optimal month to do an Alaskan cruise? And Mandy actually in the comments also says she's been in early May, late June, and late August. Late August has been the best, 75 degrees and sunny, lots of whale action. I think this was something we were debating kind of going into it. We weren't too sure. We heard June was going to be all right. Overall, a really only rainy day was Ketchikan.
I would say
the other days drizzled a little.
I would say August, or I would say like July, August is great. Probably I would say late July, mid-July is probably the peak. But we went at I feel like a great time too. Weather-wise, temperature-wise, we didn't have any issues. So I would say stay away from May and September if you can, just because those are the shoulder and it's going to be colder. If you're like Jeremy, you guys did May. Did you have any issues with temperature?
It was cold. I wouldn't call it freezing cold. The high sometimes got in the high 50s. The nights were really cold. Obviously, it's down in the 30s. But when we were in Juneau, the weather was 60s and rainy. We were only cold when we were on the boat while it was moving. Skagway had some wind and it was a cool day, but I wouldn't call it too cold to be there. When I go to Alaska, I don't want to go and have it be really warm. Honestly, I'd rather have it cold and experience cold, especially being from Texas. I'm coming home to 100-degree heat every single day. I want to have cold weather. I don't want to go sit in the sun and be warm and wear shorts and t-shirts. I want to put some warm clothes on and deal with the cold.
I think that was probably one of the best parts of our cruise. It was like 95 here in Charlotte the week we were gone. So just getting away out of that, because it was probably one of the hottest weeks we've had yet this summer here. Coming back and stepping out of the airport, I was like, well, here we are back in it again from like the 50-degree days we were having in Alaska.
I know. We looked at the weather and everyone was texting us back home like, you guys really went a great week. It was hundreds. We didn't miss anything. So that's the best part of Alaska is you're escaping your weather that you have back home. So
I think I was talking to people afterwards, does it feel like vacation? I don't know. It feels like travel, but after I got back, I'm like, man, now I feel like I need time at the beach this summer.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we've talked about like a trip versus vacation. Like going to the Mediterranean, you're busy every day. Going to Alaska, we felt like we were busy most of the days. the time zone, it kind of made me feel like I need another trip at the end of, like, I need a vacation now.
Yeah.
Just from like the exhaustion of coming back, and you were like, we were walking so much. We're putting a lot of miles on. Michael, you said you did a half a mile incline on a hike. I mean, that day I saw you, you're like, I'm going to bed as early as I can.
I got back on the ship, dude, and my legs. I mean, I think I was gonna work out that day, and then I was like, nah, I'm set. And I don't think you ever found me in the gym the rest of the cruise because my legs felt it for days. My mom wants to remind you, Frank, that we did do trivia, and you thought my dad was alive during the Titanic.
Yeah.
It was something about a year of the Titanic.
Yeah,
or
I was vlogging. That part's going to be cut out of the vlog, so just embarrassment. You know, you really start to, the drinks are flowing during trivia, and you start to forget some of these things, and that was a lapse for sure in my logic there. So apologies, Bill. You look great for your age.
All right, let's move into entertainment.
Yeah, entertainment. So the biggest entertainment that we got to experience, first night we were in 270. What is it? Star
Water, something like that.
It wasn't great, and we were disappointed. I think everyone was disappointed about that show. It was the most hyped area, and we loved the venue. Like, we loved 270. Like I said, think about Aquadome Market. Think about like a venue like on Eden, on Celebrity, where you have a restaurant, you have a bar, you have a view, but then they also turn it into a venue for a show.
Yeah.
So that's a good analogy. It's probably Eden or the Aquadome Market. And we liked the venue, but the show, Starwater, was just definitely left us wanting more. I think it's because Royal always does more. You know, they're known for just wowing you at the end of a show, whether it's the, Aqua show, ice show, you leave wowed. And on that one, we left just wanting more. They had really cool potential. Again, had the robots.
The robots were super cool.
The robot screens. And
I feel like the first 10 minutes, it was the same song. It went between like two songs, Strike a Pose, and some other, I don't even know what the two songs were. It's like, where's the story? Like, we're going to actually get it. And then it finally changed. And like you said, they were cool, like kind of like the Aqua Theater had like the stage
cool
rise
elements.
and falls. There were like parts around the theater where like people would pop out, and that was super cool. And like the technology was super cool, but the show itself, the second night we saw a show in the main theater, or the second or third night, and that one I felt was better as a performance. It was called Feathers and Tassels, or Tassels and Sequins. Yeah.
Sequins and Feathers, I think.
Yeah. So we saw that. I don't think you went to Love and Marriage, right?
No.
I went to Love and Marriage in
We
the
gotta
main
say
theater
though,
one
Sequins
night.
and Feathers, it says 18. It's an adult show. It says 13
It's
plus.
the outfits.
The outfits, the dance moves. It was an adult show. You were sitting with like your grandparents. I don't know how that vibe was. Scotty was sleeping. I was like, me. It was a show for sure. But like, definitely don't bring kids to that one. Just the outfits and the dance moves. Okay, back to Love and Marriage. How was?
Yeah, Love and
how
Marriage
did you like
was
the cruise director on this one? Because I feel like Love and Marriage, you get to kind of see the cruise director and how they interact with people and everything.
I mean, you know my thoughts on Royal Caribbean's cruise directors. I don't think they're the best. I feel like they're all also just older. And I mean, the guy was all right. He was Australian, I think.
Yeah.
He did good at Love and Marriage, though. Kind of popped his little jokes in. But no, it was good. I mean, they actually had like some of the middle and older couples kind of like audition to come down.
Yeah,
and
they always do.
so that was kind of cool. But no, it was a good show.
They usually do the youngest. They try to get the
Newest married. Yeah, that one's the
couple,
easiest.
And then they make you do like these weird things to get on stage. And
Yes.
usually, sometimes I've seen them for the older. They just take the oldest too. It's
Yeah,
like-
maybe that's what they did. I don't remember.
And they audition the middle one.
But show was good. We saw late night comedy the last night, adult comedy in the theater. The dude was actually, yeah, he was good. He was funny.
It was a carnival level.
Closer than the guy on Allure. The guy on Allure was still trash. This guy actually laughed. So it was a good time. And I think that kind of wraps up. Like, I don't know. I kind of wish they did a second show in 270.
They had one, a drone something.
I don't think so.
They did. We just didn't go. There were
Guess
some
not.
nights where we tapped out early, I would say. Our entertainment was either a show, tapping out early and going back to the room because we were so tired, or we would go to the casino. And then we had one night where we let loose a little bit, and we actually went to the club.
We did for a little bit of time.
So
the
yeah,
music hall.
Yeah, that was the late night, and I'm wearing my old fashioned shirt in honor of how many old fashions. You probably can count all the old fashions on this shirt. That's how many I had that last night, and man, it was brutal that next day. That's why you have to time it right, because you don't want to have a big night before the Juno day. You don't want to have a big night before the last. So you kind of want to time it after Juno. Get yourself ready to recover. Hey, let's talk about Vancouver, or let's talk about Victoria real quick.
Victoria. Yeah.
So Victoria was our last day on the cruise. This was our last stop. Usually it's kind of that stop where you just check the box. Hey, we went to our other country, because the U.S. has the requirement that all cruise ships have to stop in a foreign country. So we stopped there. We had 5 hours. And I will say getting off here was the busiest. I don't know if it's just because it's 5 p.m. and everyone's ready to get off, but that was definitely the busiest get off, like in terms of disembarkation and trying to get to the port. This one was probably the most hectic. But dude, I thought it was beautiful. I actually never even talked to you about what you did on this day.
Yeah. All right, so I don't think you knew. We were actually like pretty much. I mean, I knew we were kind of doing the same path. You were only not even 100 feet in front of us. We just let you enjoy your time walking. But we did like the Fisherman's Wharf
That's
area.
Like a stalker.
Yeah, I don't know. Just letting you do your thing. You never turned around, and I wasn't gonna yell up ahead to you, but
we did chat GPT. You had this idea.
Yeah. And so where we actually split up, we walked down into the Fisherman's Wharf area and kind of walked all through there, and I think you kept going. But yeah, we did Fisherman's Wharf. We walked up to kind of the Parliament building and the lawn there, so we have a picture of that. That was super cool. And then we headed down to Chinatown. And that's probably where we spent our most amount of our time, was that Government Street leading to Chinatown. And Government Street reminded me like a lot of cities in Europe, right? Roads closed off, restaurants and stuff on both sides of the street, people all out in the middle, music going on. But yeah, so we actually had dinner in Chinatown. I went to like a bao bun place and sat there at the counter.
We could not find a quick bite place in Chinatown.
Oh, mine was quick.
Okay.
Mine, I was the only one that went there. Amanda, Kyle, and Cam went to a sit-down Chinese restaurant. I had finished my dinner, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to go walk around. And I go walking by their place. They hadn't even gotten their food yet or anything. But Chinatown is super cool. I just think Victoria as a whole is super beautiful, and I wish we had more time there, honestly.
Yeah, I would agree. This is a place where I walked off and I was like, man, I could vacation here. A lot of the Canadians do vacation here, I've heard. So it was gorgeous. There was other excursions. There was gardens that you could go to. I just didn't really want to do something where I was on a bus and we were actually walking off, and one of the officers on the ship said that they had 1,000 people doing excursions, and because we were like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, and she was like trying to get people off because they were taking all the excursion people off, and she's like, this is what it looks like when you have 1,000 people doing tours at the same time. I don't know if people booked tours here because it was such a limited time and people were nervous that they were going to miss the ship and they wanted to maximize 5 hours and it's not a lot of time. But man, that was definitely the busiest trying to get off. But overall, day was great. We went to a pub that day. And so, yeah, you ate at Chinatown. We walked all the way to Chinatown with Uncle Mo and Aunt Connie. And they're like, dude, you guys are killing. We walked, we probably put like 4 miles on that day. And then we went to an Irish pub. And they have a lot of pubs there. And we ordered food and we got to try the poutine.
Oh, yeah, I got some of that to go.
So good. If you guys haven't had poutine, this is my talk about poutine, right? So poutine is fries, cheese, and gravy. But you got to think it makes sense because we eat mashed potatoes and gravy. Yeah. So it's literally like...
Nothing wrong with it.
It's just like literally frying the potatoes instead of mashing them. And goodness gracious, it was amazing. Like, I want more. Where can I get poutine? I'm about to Google where I can get poutine in Charlotte because that stuff is incredible. So that was definitely a highlight. And just walking around, I mean, it was weather. Walking back was gorgeous.
Oh, yeah, that whole day, the sea day part in the solarium, it was the sunniest day overall. Yeah. Waves were super calm. And like you said, walking around Victoria, such a beautiful area.
I would say if you're someone that gets motion sick, I would bring like Bo9 on this cruise. That last day we were going really slow. But on our itinerary, we did not go on the inner side. We went kind of around and through the Pacific. So just make sure that you do pack Bo9. it's one of those things where if you don't pack it, you'll need it, and if you pack it, you probably won't need it. It's nice to have it there just in your back pocket if you start to feel a little queasy, because like that one day we were coming back from Juneau, it was pretty rough. So we were getting 50 knots of wind on the side. We were going 20 knots. So it was a rock and rolling kind of day. Jeremy, for you guys, did you have pretty smooth seas going to Alaska?
I think when we're going out, we had some more. I call it a little rocky, but we did the inside passage, so it wasn't that bad. We really didn't really feel much.
I think we had some questions, comments.
Yeah, Mandy mentioned here the Bouchard Gardens was beautiful. I know you were looking at that, Frank. You ended up not doing it.
Yeah, we just did like you said, a walking tour.
Yeah.
But this is the Bouchard Gardens are like
I think it's one of the more popular things to do there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much the main attraction for people on a cruise ship.
And as far as entertainment, she said Mosaic was my favorite. I don't think either one of us saw that. I know some of my family did, and I think they too agreed that was their favorite show too, like up to that point of the cruise.
Yeah, Mosaic was like this a cappella group that they just used their mouths and they made music, and it was really cool. We have a question from Carmen.
Yeah, this is a great question. With such a big group, did you feel pressure to find activities for everyone to do together, or was it more of a free-for-all and then meet up at dinner? Yeah, Carmen. That was what a lot of my planning had went into before the cruise for my family, because we had a really now we didn't have like any like kids or teenagers or any of that, but we were still working with like 25 to my grandma turned 88 on the sailing, and we celebrated that in the dining room on one of the last nights. But yeah, it can be difficult, that's for sure. I think at the end of the day, what I ended up doing was kind of planning what I wanted to do, and for kind of each day, and I kind of presented it to my family. Hey, this day I'm going to rent a car. Hey, this day I'm probably going to be hiking. Hey, this day I'm just going to be walking around. If anybody wants to come, you can, or if not, not like, yeah, go find your own thing to do. Yeah, but like they'd kind of go find their other thing that owns things to do for the day. And as far as dinner, my immediate family, we had I think 10 people. So we had a table for 10, I think, in the dining room. And the night it was my Nana's birthday, my aunt and her boyfriend came and joined us for dinner. But then it was just whoever wanted to come to dinner that night could come. We had the table space. So yeah, pressure. I put pressure on myself at the start. I mean, even like finding things for myself that I want to do. I want to make sure like it's my trip too. Like I want to enjoy the things I'm doing. I don't want to for example, that Turo when we drove out to Eagle Beach and kind of did some of that. I admitted, I'm like, I could have probably just went to town and spent more time in the downtown area. The Eagle Beach was cool, but I don't know. So that was the type of thing, like, yeah, maybe something I would change. But, yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're the one doing a lot of the planning, I understand how you would probably feel pressure. But, yeah, like I said, kind of just found out the things I wanted to do and then went from there with my family.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We had family on board as well. And I would say, like, we kind of just went with the flow a bit and said, hey, we're going to do this. If you want to join, like, we're going to be in the solarium. You're welcome to come join us in the solarium, or you're welcome to go on this tour. But ultimately, Carmen, it is like kind of a weird thing where you're like, okay, I want to have my time. I know you guys want to have your time. Let's meet up at this point. Like, you kind of rendezvous at a certain point in the night. But I think it is like a hard thing to balance of like, you want them to have their vacation. You want to have your vacation. You obviously want to see each other as well. So like, how do we make all of this work? So you kind of have to go in with like, just making sure that you're on the same page on that and how much time you're going to spend. I didn't do dinner with my family every night. So that was something that we just were like, hey, we're going to kind of take it by day. And we kind of updated some reservations here and there where we wanted to eat together. But ultimately, we kind of decided that on the fly.
Another question about the food there.
Yeah, how was the food on this cruise compared to the Europe cruise? So my med cruise was before Royal changed the menu to kind of like the nightly different themes. But I think the food, I mean, it was just as good as Europe. Like you said, the food isn't as like local to the different cuisines and all of that. That maybe you would sometimes get in the Caribbean, like sometimes in the Caribbean you have like the catch of the day or something like that. But, food was just as good.
Yeah, I don't think like I said, I don't think the food varied at all from the cruise. It was the same food that you would get on a Caribbean cruise. I don't know, Jeremy. Did you feel like you got different food on your princess?
I did that. When you earlier you said you guys didn't have any extra seafood. I felt like we had like the main dining room for dinners, like three-quarters of the menu was seafood. We ended up not going a lot because neither one of us liked seafood. We ate other places. And it was just, I mean, there was always like one or two dishes we might have eaten, but there was a lot of seafood every night on the dining room and the appetizers and the soups and all the main courses. So there was a lot of seafood in ours.
I think that's definitely a difference. Like Royal keeps their menus very, very consistent. Even like lobster night, they had it on the second sea day. You were nervous that you weren't going to get the lobster.
Lobster night was okay, Frank. I don't know if I told you my thoughts on the butter this cruise.
Oh, you did.
It looked, smelled, and tasted like movie theater popcorn butter, and it just threw the whole thing off for me. The lobster itself was good. The butter,
Not so good.
not so good.
That's fair.
My mom also said, just a little shout out to myself, did a great job, Michael. Thanks,
Yeah,
Mom.
it's hard to plan for a big group. Like, yeah, you almost give them the options, like the menu of like, here's what I'm going to do. Here's 2 or 3 other things you can do. And then if you want to come with me, let's do it. I'll make sure that we have accommodations. If not, you do your own thing. I don't know, Jeremy, if you have another tactic that you've used for other groups in the past.
I mean, it depends on your group, if it's friends group or if it's family group or how close you are. But when you go with a big group, that's all you can do is say, hey, listen, we're going to do this. If you want to join us, that's great. If you don't want to join us, you can do your own thing. There's so many things to do on a cruise ship and in ports. And the great thing is when you go with a big group and they're just friends and family, everybody, you can, they're doing this. You can always find something to go do something with. So. They want to go to the shows, and you have someone to go to the shows with. They want to go to the casino, you have someone to go to the casino with. So you kind of have someone to do everything with, and everybody kind of gets to do what they want to do and doesn't have to do it all alone. That's the one I found normally.
I mean, I think that's it. We'll open it up for any other questions.
Here's one for you to read, Frank.
You both have great travel podcast spaces. Well done. Great job. This is Jennifer. Thank you. We appreciate that. I know Cruising Bear, you did a little outfitting of your studio there. So we look forward to having you on. Well, also for those that are listening and on live right now, let's try to do more of this. I think it's a different way of bringing content. We want to make sure we're interacting with you guys more. It's hard when we do a podcast and you watch, you might have a question and you don't submit it, but this gives you an opportunity to come on and ask questions and, more interaction.
For sure. To say, whether you're watching here on TikTok, make sure you just like the video, subscribe to us here on both places. And like you said, I know they'll both notify you when we go live in the future. Obviously, follow us and the Cruising Bear both on Instagram too, Cruise Conversations and the Cruising Bears. Jeremy, any final thoughts?
Yeah, one last question for you. The vibe. There's a vibe on the Caribbean cruises. It's party. It's always pretty live. Was there a different feel on the ship for Alaska?
That's a good question. I mean, I think when you think Alaska cruises, you tend to think older crowds overall, and I know you had a good answer with like the people our age on the cruise when we were on our last live. I'll let you take that in a second. But I know for me, obviously it's a summer cruise. There were more kids than I was expecting, I think, overall. So a lot of kids on the sailing. As far as like a party vibe and all that, not as much during the day. Like we said, we went to the club the one night. The club on this ship started like really late most nights, like 12:45, 1 o'clock. Now, I walked by one night kind of before the club time, and there was just like, they do music in the music hall. So I guess they do kind of like the pub or the schooner bar, like music up to a certain time, and then eventually kind of have to swap over the venue for the club. So maybe that's kind of why it started later each night. I don't know. I mean, maybe that is a pro of having like a dedicated club space on a ship. I don't know. The casino is always pretty popping throughout the day, the evenings. What do you think about people our age?
Yeah, I would say drink package wise, first off, like this wasn't a cruise where most people had the drink package. Most people were not there to drink. There were people that had them, but it wasn't as common as you would see. Like I would say on the Caribbean, 1 in 3, 1 in 4 people have a drink package. When you're looking at Alaska, probably like 1 out of every 6. Like I don't think it was as common, right? So that's one thing. Is there an older crowd? not maybe slightly on Alaska, but because it's Royal Caribbean, I think that's the biggest factor for us. That we didn't notice it as much. I feel like if you go on Princess, you might notice it even more. At the end of the day, Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, Carnival, they're all family cruise lines, so you're still going to have kids. We still had kids on the cruise. Now, maybe if we were in May, September, you probably would have less kids, but for the most part, there were still probably the same amount of kids, that you would see on our cruise that you probably would see on a Caribbean cruise. Now, the thing that was different was like, again, back to the drink package thing, with our age group in like the 20s and 30s, maybe even early 40s, there's less people that were, again, party. They were there for the adventure, right? So you'd see people with like all this camera gear on the pool deck, or you'd see people that were like in like hiking outfits and stuff. Probably a lot of people that have never cruised before, but just really wanted to go to Alaska, and they're like, okay, this is the best way for us to see Alaska. So that's something to think about. Like, the crowd isn't there to necessarily go to the club. The crowd isn't there to go to the trivia. They're there for the functional aspect, kind of like the Mediterranean of like, I want to get to these places, and this is the best way for me to do that,
Yeah, another just super random thought. I had a thought. I don't know, maybe it'll come back to me. Taylor has a question that I think is kind of cool. She said, what was the spa like? Was it Alaska themed or basic? I never made my way into the spa. My guess would be it was just basic spa.
Basic.
I think really the only thing that like said Alaska was that like Alaska section shop on the ship. Like I said, was all different, like kind of like some local gifts and souvenirs and all of that. Like that said Alaska. Everything else on the ship was just a basic ship. I know my grandma, I think, went up and did something in the spa one of the days. I walked by it a couple times, never really went in. And like I said, never found the gym, the sailing.
Yeah, we went in the spa a few times. My wife went on day one, signed up for the spa deal, and it was a good deal. You got a 100-minute massage, which is insane. Like, I don't ever even seen I was like trying to do the math. I'm like, 100-minute massage, that's like longer than most movies I've seen. So she was like definitely asleep by the end of it. So that was, she paid for a 75-minute massage, got a 100-minute massage. So she did that on day one, and then she did like the blowout. She got her hair blown out on one of the days. So she did that. The spa was very similar, like you said, to any other ship that we've been on before. They didn't do any like cool, spa things. We were looking at doing the thermal suite, but we were like, are we really going to use that? And I'm glad we didn't, because we spent so much time just in the solarium. You never had a problem getting chairs anywhere on the ship. There was no problems getting seats by the solarium, even at, when we were sailing through the glacier. So much space, honestly.
Yeah, I'll say the thing I was most surprised about was that last sea day when it was, like I said, it was the sunniest day. Walked even out on that outside pool deck, and people were all kind of out there in loungers too, just trying to enjoy the sun. And I think one of the nice things too at the ship, Mandy here said Holland America Cruises had like 5 kids total. I think the cool thing with this ship is we didn't really, maybe we can quickly talk about some of the different areas, but the indoor pool was kind of like your kids' pool area, right? Like a lot of family and kids there. And then next to that was the solarium where like we were hanging out a lot. So both age ranges had indoor pool spaces, which, like you said, for Alaska, super nice because you don't want to be out. The first day we actually got in the main pool.
We got in the main pool.
When we were in Seattle. And I think the water was heated, right? I felt good.
Yeah, it was heated.
But like you said, once you start sailing up towards Alaska and the temperature, air changes, you're not going to find yourself out in that water as much.
And that was one of the reasons, Miranda, that we booked this one, because we were like, listen, we like to be in pools, and with the solarium being fully enclosed, I spent most of my time in the solarium, honestly, just looking at the views. That's where we were able to see, I don't know if I sent you any videos to put in here, but like we saw so many whales and different things just right off the side of the ship.
That was my thought. I said I lost. Seeing whales off the side of the ship kind of felt like a sporting event because you'd everybody just sitting out and somebody would see something and then start pointing and everyone would start cheering and everything.
Run over to the edge. And
people trying to get their... There was one poor lady next to me at one point. Each time the whale, she'd be trying to get her camera out and they would miss it every time. Like the same whale came up like 2 or 3 times.
But we saw so much from the side of the ship, and that was just from like laying down in the solarium, and then all of a sudden people by the windows would point and you just run up there and get your camera out. And we saw a lot of really cool animals. So again, going back to the ship, we booked this one. We liked the solarium. We liked the inside pool, the Seaplex. We didn't talk a lot about
that's
that.
probably the last area we really haven't talked about.
So,
Seaplex was super neat.
Going back to the Sea Day conversation, we had a Sea Day, and your brother and your dad did the pickleball tournament. What was really cool about this ship, you're like pickleball in Alaska. Yeah, they were playing pickleball. Inside, they had 3 courts set up. So they have 3 courts. This is the same place that they run the bumper cars as well. So you can do bumper cars as well. But they played pickleball for a couple hours. They were in a tournament.
Yeah.
And they had a really good time. And then once they were done with the tournament, we did cornhole, which was awesome in there. They have ping pong. They have Xboxes. Literally, if you're a kid under 18, even our age, anyone enjoyed that. I mean, it's really a space you can enjoy for all ages. So if you want to do activities, it's perfect because you're inside, no elements.
Yeah, like you said, pickleball, bumper cars, archery, foosball, literally like your foosball, your ping pong, you typically have like on other royal ships, but in different areas where this, like you said, is all enclosed, all indoors, and the energy just felt great in there.
Yeah, it was awesome.
The Royal Esplanade is really... We kind of talked about that briefly on our last live. That kind of feels like the promenade, but the nice thing with that is that second floor kind of connects all the way around, so that's pretty neat. They call that area where Jamie's is the Via, I think, kind of leading.
That's a cool spot.
Jamie's, Vintages, the shops there going to 270. So we may do a whole nother episode in the future, kind of just a deep dive into the quantum class, like we've done with Oasis and Icon and all that.
All right, the question is, would you rather do the quantum class in the Caribbean or independence or freedom class?
Ooh, I don't know. Like, I've always said I enjoy the independence and freedom ships. I think the thing I'm trying to figure out right now is if I like the promenade more or the Royal Esplanade on these ships. And I kind of like the layout of the Esplanade. I like that the coffee is separate from Cafe Promenade.
The coffee shop was the best coffee I've had on a cruise. Was at that La Patisserie,
yeah. Obviously, but like on a normal like freedom class ship, the coffee and like kind of like your free bites are all in one spot, so you're waiting in one line. This kind of separated that up. Sorrento's was big. Like you said, you have the pub right there. I don't know. It'd be a toss up. I think I'd look at pricing,
an itinerary,
yeah. But I would definitely sail a quantum class ship again in the future. Speaking of the Seaplex, Mandy said the bumper cars were fun. Yeah, we never got to do them. I watched one of the first days. They have like this pendulum arm that hangs from the ceiling that like the bumper car hosts like up talking from. And that arcade was, I walked by the arcade a lot. It was never in there. Monica, hello from TikTok. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Monica.
Cruising Bear, World America. Yeah, I think that's the big question right now. Even my mom was asking me yesterday what's
next
when we're kind of planning that, and I think we're still kind of looking like November-ish of next year. So if you are interested in sailing with us, the Cruising Bear, we're really looking at. Jeremy, do you have the date in front of you that we're looking at?
I do.
It's like I think the week before Thanksgiving, we kind of put out in a form.
It is the week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so if you're interested, email us at Cruise Conversation. Send Jeremy a DM at the Cruising Bear. We'd really love to try and get something nailed down on the World America.
And some big news. Jeremy and I are going to be cruising together this year.
You didn't even know.
No, my wife, we were on the ship, and obviously the best time to book a cruise is when you're on the ship, you're thinking about it, and we're like, we've done a lot of Royal. It's time to branch out and try something new. And I think we're just ready to experience something different. And Icon is great, but we've done Icon before. I'm doing Star in about a month and a half. So I'm ready to try a different class. And the Excel, this is the Celebrity Excel. It's their newest Edge class, and they're adding a lot of really cool things. So Jeremy and I will be on that, and Jeremy will have to get you on to do a preview episode for that one as well.
Yeah, we'll try and go live from there as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Outside of that, though, that kind of wraps up our week on Quantum of the Seas. We have vlogs that are going to be coming out eventually. Yep. We're trying to work through our boys' cruise allure vlogs.
Those are ready. Those are coming out. We got the first 2 days of the guys' trip is ready. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. That's coming out next Friday. So about a week from now, you'll get to
Okay.
enjoy. Those are a little unhinged. So apologies for all the singing as you're walking around the ship and all the drinks. The drink package was fully turned on for that one. So apologies in advance.
Yeah, we'll have that coming probably today, tomorrow. We have the TikTok live we did. I have uploaded to YouTube. I'm going to make that public. So if you want to go back, that one we really do show off the different areas of the ship. Like we said, the Royal Esplanade, the Seaplex, the Solarium. We walk outside really briefly in the windy, cold rain. So make sure to go check that out. We answer some questions on that as well and really just show off more parts of the ship than we can do right now on this live being back home. You want to take us home, Frank?
Yeah, thank you so much again for listening, whether you're watching this live on YouTube or you're streaming this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We look forward to bringing you more content from Alaska. If you are interested in a cruise, make sure you reach out. You can do that through the Cruising Bear. At the Cruising Bears, you can reach out, cruiseconversationspodcast.com. We actually just made some updates to the website, and we're going to obviously get some blogs out there as well just to recap our Alaska trip. If you're into just reading and kind of that kind of content, we can do that as well. But this is going to wrap up this week's episode. Thank you so much, and we'll see you